All I want to see is five guys happy playing together, and that's what makes the music.
In the late 1970s, the world of rock music looked glamorous from the outside, but behind the bright lights and sold-out arenas, many bands were struggling with pressure, exhaustion, and personal conflict. One of the most famous groups of that era was the Eagles, a band that helped define the sound of 1970s American rock. At the heart of their early success was Randy Meisner, a soft-spoken and talented bass player whose high harmonies and emotional voice became a key part of the band's identity. Before his death in 2023, Meisner had spoken openly in interviews about how difficult his time in the band had been, and how he often felt pressured, misunderstood, and isolated. While the Eagles went on to become one of the best-selling bands in history, Meisner's departure in 1977 remains one of the most talked-about moments in their story. Many fans have wondered what truly happened behind the scenes, and whether Meisner was treated fairly during the years when the band was rising to global fame. The Eagles were formed in 1971, and from the beginning they showed great musical chemistry. The original lineup included Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Bernie Leadon, and Randy Meisner. Before forming the band, several of them had worked with Linda Ronstadt, who helped bring them together and encouraged them to create their own group. Their early music blended rock and country, creating a smooth and emotional sound that stood out at the time. Songs like Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, and Desperado quickly made them popular. As the band grew, Meisner's bass playing and high backing vocals became an important part of their harmony. He was not the loudest personality in the band, but his musical ability was clear. When the Eagles released albums like On the Border and One of These Nights, their success exploded. Fame, however, brought new problems. With hit records and constant touring came long months away from home, high expectations, and growing tension among the members. One of the biggest turning points in Meisner's career with the Eagles came with the song, Take It to the Limit. The track became one of the band's most loved hits, and Meisner sang lead vocals on it. The song required him to reach very high notes, which thrilled audiences, but also caused him great anxiety. Over time, performing the song night after night became physically and emotionally exhausting. Meisner was known to be shy and uncomfortable with too much attention, and he did not enjoy being pushed into the spotlight. In interviews, he later explained that he often felt nervous about hitting the high notes perfectly in front of huge crowds. As the Eagles became bigger, the pressure to deliver flawless performances increased. Glenn Frey and Don Henley were known for being strict about professionalism and quality, and while that helped the band succeed, it also created an intense environment. Meisner began to feel that his personal struggles were not fully understood by the others. The situation reached its peak in 1977 during a concert in Knoxville, Tennessee. On that night, Meisner was reportedly sick with stomach problems and flu-like symptoms. He did not want to perform Take It to the Limit as an encore because he felt too weak and anxious. According to stories shared later in documentaries and interviews, an argument broke out backstage between Meisner and Glenn Frey. Voices were raised, and emotions ran high. Some accounts say that Meisner felt pushed to perform even though he was unwell. He later explained that he felt embarrassed and overwhelmed, and that the confrontation made him feel even more alone within the group. Shortly after that concert, Meisner decided to leave the Eagles. For fans, it was shocking. The band was at the height of its fame, especially after the success of the album Hotel California, yet one of its founding members was gone. His departure marked the end of an important chapter in the band's early history. After leaving the Eagles, Meisner tried to build a solo career. While he released several albums and had moderate success, he never reached the same level of fame he had experienced with the band. Still, he often said that he chose peace of mind over money and constant touring. He admitted that staying with the Eagles might have made him much richer, but the emotional cost was too high. Over the years, he spoke about feeling isolated during his final days with the group, describing how he believed the friendship among the members had changed as fame grew. At the same time, members of the Eagles have shared their own perspectives, suggesting that the pressures of success affected everyone in different ways. The story is not simple, and there are many sides to it. What is clear is that Meisner valued his family and personal comfort, and he struggled with the heavy demands of rock star life. In later years, When the Eagles reunited for tours such as Hell Freezes Over, fans hoped to see Meisner return to the stage. Although he briefly appeared with the band at events like their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he did not fully rejoin them. Health problems and personal challenges made it difficult for him to return to the intense world of touring. The band continued with new members, including musicians who helped carry on their sound, and their concerts remained popular. Yet for many longtime fans, Randy Meisner's absence was always noticeable. His voice on Take It to the Limit remained a powerful memory of the band's early magic. Before his passing in 2023, due to complications from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, Meisner's life story stood as a reminder that success can come with hidden costs. His experience with the Eagles shows how fame, pressure, and strong personalities can create both incredible music and deep personal conflict. In the end, his legacy is not only about tension or mistreatment, but also about the timeless songs he helped create and the emotional honesty he brought to the stage. As the years passed after his departure, Randy Meisner's story slowly became part of a larger conversation about what it truly means to be in a world-famous band. The Eagles continued to rise even higher after 1977, releasing more music and building a powerful legacy that would last for decades. At the same time, Meisner stepped away from the intense spotlight that had once surrounded him every night. In interviews given later in life, he did not speak with anger as much as with sadness and reflection. He explained that he never felt comfortable with confrontation and that he often tried to avoid conflict rather than fight back. This personality difference may have played a large role in how events unfolded. Within the Eagles, strong leadership came mainly from Don Henley and Glenn Frey. They were known for their focus, ambition, and strict standards. While those qualities helped the band achieve greatness, they may have also made it harder for quieter members like Meisner to express their feelings openly. Over time, small misunderstandings can grow into larger emotional distances, especially when people are under stress. Many observers believe that the pressure inside the band was not directed only at Meisner. Other members also left over the years, including Bernie Leadon and later Don Felder. Each departure carried its own story of disagreement and tension. This pattern suggests that the Eagles' internal environment was demanding and sometimes difficult. Still, it is important to understand that creative groups often struggle when strong personalities work closely together for long periods. The Eagles were not just co-workers. They were artists trying to protect their vision while also managing business decisions, money, touring schedules, and public expectations. Meisner once mentioned that as the band became more successful, the atmosphere shifted from friendship to professionalism. Decisions became more serious, and arguments felt heavier. He reportedly told biographers that he felt outnumbered in some discussions, especially when he disagreed about touring or song arrangements. Whether this counts as mistreatment depends on how one defines fairness, but it clearly left him feeling hurt and pushed aside. Another important factor in Meisner's experience was his natural personality. He was often described as gentle, shy, and sensitive. In a rock band that projected confidence and strength, this difference may have made him feel out of place. Performing Take It to the Limit every night required not only vocal strength, but also emotional courage. High notes can be risky, and singers sometimes fear missing them in front of thousands of fans. According to stories shared in documentaries like History of the Eagles, Meisner felt increasing anxiety about singing the song live. Glenn Frey later admitted that the band pushed him to perform it because audiences expected it. From one point of view, this was simply business and responsibility. From another point of view, it may have felt like pressure without enough empathy. These two perspectives can exist at the same time. The Eagles wanted to deliver the best possible show, while Meisner wanted understanding for his physical and emotional limits. When the Eagles were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998, fans were happy to see Meisner share the stage again with his former bandmates. The moment showed that, despite past conflicts, there was still respect for his role in building the band's foundation. Yet, he did not return permanently. Health issues, including respiratory problems later in life, made touring difficult. The band eventually continued with Timothy B. Schmidt on bass and in later years artists like Vince Gill and Deacon Fry joined for major tours. The Eagles adapted and survived, but the memory of Meisner's voice remained tied to their early identity. For many listeners, his emotional delivery on "Take It to the Limit" symbolized a special era that could never fully be recreated. In the final years before his passing in 2023, Randy Meisner lived a quieter life compared to the peak of his fame. He faced personal tragedies, including the loss of loved ones, and he dealt with ongoing health struggles. Yet he also received renewed appreciation from fans who looked back on his contributions with gratitude. Online discussions and music retrospectives often highlighted how important his harmonies were to the Eagles' sound. Some fans argue that he deserved more recognition and support during his time in the band. Others believe that the intense standards of the group were necessary for their legendary success. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Bands are complicated families, and like many families, they experience both love and conflict. Looking back at his story, Randy Meisner's journey teaches an important lesson about fame and human limits. Great success often demands sacrifice, but not everyone is built to handle the same level of pressure in the same way. Meisner chose personal peace over continued global fame, even if that meant stepping away from one of the most successful rock bands in history. Whether he was truly mistreated or simply caught in a difficult environment remains open to interpretation. What cannot be questioned is his musical legacy. His bass lines, harmonies, and heartfelt voice helped shape the early magic of the Eagles, and those recordings continue to inspire listeners around the world. As time moved forward and the story of the Eagles became part of rock history, discussions about Randy Meisner's departure continued to grow. Music historians, journalists, and longtime fans often revisited the events of 1977, trying to understand whether his exit was simply a professional disagreement or something deeper. In later interviews, Randy Meisner described feeling emotionally drained during his final months with the band. He explained that constant touring left him exhausted and that he missed his family deeply. At the time, the Eagles were one of the biggest bands in the world, especially after the massive success of their album, Hotel California. Stadium tours, long rehearsals, and non-stop travel became normal. While some band members thrived in this fast-paced life, Meisner struggled with homesickness and anxiety. He once said that he never enjoyed being the center of attention and that he felt uncomfortable when crowds demanded perfection every night. These feelings, when combined with tension inside the group, created an atmosphere that he found hard to survive. The structure of the Eagles also changed over the years, and this shift may have increased Meisner's sense of distance. In the early days, the band functioned more like a shared partnership. But as success grew, Don Henley and Glenn Frey became the main creative leaders. They wrote many of the biggest songs and gradually gained more control over decisions. Leadership can be necessary for success, but it can also create imbalance if not handled carefully. Some reports suggest that Meisner felt his ideas were less valued over time. He was not known for arguing loudly or fighting for attention. Instead, he tended to withdraw when disagreements happened. In high-pressure creative groups, quieter personalities can sometimes be overshadowed by stronger voices. This dynamic does not automatically mean abuse or cruelty, but it can lead to feelings of being ignored or dismissed. When people feel unheard for too long, leaving may seem like the only solution. Another layer to this story involves the emotional weight of performance. Singing "Take It to the Limit" required Meisner to hit a powerful high note that became the highlight of every concert. Audiences waited for it, and fans often demanded encores. At first, the applause felt rewarding, but over time it turned into stress. High notes are physically demanding, especially during long tours. Missing them can damage a singer's confidence. According to accounts shared in the documentary History of the Eagles, Meisner began asking to reduce how often he performed the song. However, the band believed the song was too important to remove from the setlist. This difference in opinion may seem small, but it represented a deeper issue: the clash between personal limits and public expectations. For the band, delivering the full show was part of their responsibility to fans. For Meisner, protecting his voice and mental health was equally important. When these two goals could not meet in the middle, conflict became unavoidable. After Meisner left, the Eagles continued with Timothy B. Schmidt on bass, and their career moved forward. Yet even as they broke records and filled arenas, many fans remembered Meisner's unique vocal tone. His voice had a softness that balanced the stronger styles of Henley and Fry. Over time, the band itself experienced more internal disputes, leading to their breakup in 1980. This later separation showed that tension had not disappeared after Meisner's exit. Creative differences, financial disagreements, and personal clashes continued to shape their journey. When the Eagles reunited in the 1990s for the Hell Freezes Over tour, it proved that time can heal some wounds, but not all. Meisner did appear with them at special events, including their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, showing that respect remained. However, a full reunion never happened. Health concerns and personal circumstances kept him away from the demanding life of touring. In his final years, Meisner's life was marked by both reflection and hardship. He faced personal loss, including the tragic death of his wife, and dealt with ongoing health issues related to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Despite these struggles, fans continued to celebrate his contributions to rock music. Social media, tribute concerts, and music documentaries brought renewed attention to his role in shaping the Eagles' early sound. When he passed away in 2023, tributes poured in from around the world. The remaining members of the Eagles released statements honoring his talent and acknowledging his importance to their success. These tributes showed that, regardless of past disagreements, his legacy was secure. The question of whether Randy Meisner was truly mistreated may never have a simple answer. Human relationships are complex, especially under the intense pressure of global fame. Some may see his story as one of unfair treatment and lost opportunity. Others may view it as a case of mismatched personalities in a high-stress environment. What remains clear is that Meisner's voice and musicianship helped build one of the most influential rock bands in history. His decision to choose personal peace over continued fame reveals a side of the music industry that is often hidden behind bright lights and applause. In remembering him, fans are reminded that even legends are human, carrying private fears and hopes beneath their public image. As the legacy of the Eagles continues to grow, many fans have started to look back at Randy Meisner's story with more understanding and sympathy than ever before. In the 1970s, the culture of rock music often celebrated toughness, ego, and endurance. Artists were expected to tour endlessly, perform perfectly, and handle pressure without complaint. Mental health was rarely discussed openly, and anxiety was sometimes misunderstood as weakness. In that environment, a sensitive and private person like Randy Meisner may have found it especially difficult to speak up. Today, audiences are more aware of how stress, stage fright, and exhaustion can affect performers. Looking back, some people believe that if Meisner had been part of the band in a different era, one where emotional well-being was discussed more openly, his experience might have been very different. Instead, he lived through a time when success was measured mostly by ticket sales and chart positions, not by personal balance. One important point to understand is that the Eagles were not a casual garage band. They were running what had become a major business. Their albums sold millions of copies worldwide, and tours involved large crews, managers, and financial commitments. Every canceled performance meant lost money and disappointed fans. From the band's point of view, maintaining a consistent show was essential. From Meisner's point of view, protecting his health and voice was equally essential. These two priorities sometimes collided. When the Knoxville incident happened in 1977, it was not only about one song. It represented months, maybe even years, of built-up stress. Reports say that after refusing to sing "Take It to the Limit" that night, he argued with Glenn Fry backstage. Some accounts describe raised voices and intense anger. While the exact details may differ depending on who tells the story, the emotional damage was clear. Shortly after, Meisner left the band. The separation may have looked sudden to the public, but it was likely the result of long-standing frustration. After his departure, the Eagles replaced Meisner with Timothy B. Schmidt, who had previously been in the band Poco. Schmidt brought strong vocal ability and professionalism, and the group continued to achieve commercial success. However, the emotional tone of the band slowly changed. By 1980, conflicts among members became so severe that the Eagles broke up entirely. This later breakup suggests that tension was not focused only on Meisner. Creative partnerships can be powerful but fragile. When strong personalities push each other to excel, the result can be amazing music. But when communication breaks down, even the most successful groups can fall apart. In this sense, Meisner's exit was part of a larger pattern within the band's history. It showed that success does not remove human weakness. Sometimes it increases it. Years later, when the Eagles reunited for major tours, including the famous Hell Freezes Over tour in the 1990s, fans once again hoped for a complete reunion of all original members. Although Meisner appeared at special moments like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, he did not return as a permanent member. By that time, health problems and personal challenges made full-time touring unrealistic for him. Meanwhile, the band continued evolving. After Glenn Frey's death in 2016, his son Deacon Fry and country singer Vince Gill joined the touring lineup. This showed that the Eagles were willing to adapt and honor their past at the same time. Still, for longtime fans, Randy Meisner's absence remained meaningful. His voice on Take It to the Limit continued to represent a special emotional peak in the band's early years. Before his death in 2023 from complications related to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, Meisner lived mostly away from the spotlight. He did not chase media attention or try to reopen old conflicts. Instead, he seemed to accept his place in history quietly. Interviews from his later years show a man who carried both pride and regret. He was proud of the music he helped create, but he also admitted that leaving the Eagles changed the course of his life forever. Some fans believe he deserved more appreciation during his time in the band. Others argue that the Eagles' demanding style was necessary to achieve their legendary status. Both views have value, and the truth may sit somewhere in between right and the end. Randy Meisner's story is not only about conflict or mistreatment. It is about the human cost of greatness. It reminds us that behind every hit song and sold-out tour, there are real people with fears, limits, and personal dreams. The Eagles created timeless music that still moves millions of listeners around the world. Meisner's harmonies and emotional lead vocals remain part of that legacy. His choice to step away from overwhelming pressure shows courage of a different kind, the courage to protect one's peace, even at the height of fame. As fans continue to listen to the songs he helped create, they also remember the quiet man behind the high notes, a musician who chose honesty with himself over endless applause. As we continue to reflect on the life and career of Randy Meisner, it becomes clear that his story is deeply connected to the larger journey of the Eagles. The band's rise to fame was fast and powerful, but it also created an environment where emotions were often pushed aside for the sake of success. In the early 1970s, when the Eagles were just starting, there was a sense of shared excitement and brotherhood. They were young musicians chasing a dream together. But as record sales increased and their popularity exploded, business pressures began to shape their decisions. Managers, record labels, and large tour schedules added new layers of responsibility. In such a setting, small disagreements could grow into serious divisions. Meisner, who valued harmony both musically and personally,